Philippines. Hello, Region 1. Aloha sa Caribbean learners. Airing live from the Metro, the blue capital of the Philippines at Carlos City. You're tuning into CCN Broadcast Center, a virtual home of every SCC learner, where passion is the key, learning paves the way. With our division mantra, developing creativity, maximizing versatility. This is your CCN Broadcast Center. CCN Broadcast Center, a virtual home of every SCC learner.
Good morning to all the viewers, especially to the grade 9 learners. Welcome to another fun-filled learning episode here at Carlos and Curlin Network. I am Ms. Karen Del P. de Guzman, Teacher 1 of Speaker Eugenio Perez National Agricultural School, and I will be your teacher webcaster for today. And before we start the learning adventure, let me remind you of 3 important things. First, prepare your pen, paper, and your self-learning modules in Mathematics 9, specifically Quarter 3, Module 3. Second, during the entire webcast, listen attentively and participate actively by sharing with us your thoughts and ideas through the comment box. And lastly, but most especially, enjoy and have fun learning. So I guess we are all set. Today, you will be learning about the Midline Theorem. And before we proceed, the learning objectives under this topic are: first, prove the Midline Theorem, and second, relate the Midline Theorem in real-life situations. And before we proceed to the discussion, let's have first pretest. Read carefully each item. Write only the letter of the best answer on a separate sheet. Or you can type your answers in the comment box. You will be given 5 seconds to answer each of the following questions. Timer starts now. Time's up. Let us check. For number 1, which theorem states that the segment that joins the midpoints of 2 sides of a triangle is parallel to the third side and half as long? The answer there is A, Midline Theorem. Second, in triangle ABC, D and E are the midpoints of segment AB and segment AC respectively. If segment BC is 12 centimeters long, how long is segment DE? The correct answer there is letter B, 6 centimeters. Next, you will be given another 5 seconds to answer each of the following questions. Your timer starts now. Time's up. Let us check your answers. Number 3, in triangle A, BC, D and E are the midpoints of segment AB and segment BC respectively. If segment DE measures 4 inches, how long is segment AC? The correct answer is letter C, 8 inches. For items 4 and 5, consider the figure on the right. For number 4, if L is the midpoint of segment DE and M is the midpoint of segment EF, which of the following is the reason why segment EM is congruent to segment MF? The correct answer is letter A, the definition of midpoint. And lastly, which of the following reasons answers why segment LM is equal to 1/2 the measure of segment DF? The correct answer is letter D, Midline Theorem. So for those who got a perfect or high score, great job! But for those who get low scores, do not worry, because this lesson for today will greatly help you in understanding the midline theorem. You already have the knowledge about triangles, so let's test your knowledge about the triangles. Consider the given figure. In triangle ABC, D and F are the midpoints, and segment AB and are the midpoints of segment AB and segment AC respectively. So you need to answer the following questions. You are given 15 seconds to answer the questions. Time is up. Let us now check your answers. Number 1. Name the three sides of triangle ABC. The three sides of the triangle ABC are segment AB, segment BC, and segment AC. Did you got it right? Great job! Number 2. Segment DF is parallel to segment BC. And then for number 3, segment AD is congruent to segment AF. Very good. So for number 4, segment FC is congruent to segment DV. And lastly, if segment DV measures 5 centimeters, what is the measure of segment AB? The measure of segment AB is 10 centimeters. So consider the tables below. Which do you think is stable? Is it the table on the first table or the second table? If your answer is the second table, then you are definitely right. Why? Because the table with diagonals is stable. Two triangles formed by diagonals are congruent, and congruent triangles cannot change the shape. Therefore, it is stable. Look at the first table. It has 4 legs, or it can form a parallelogram, and it can form into other shapes. That is why the second table is more stable than the first one. And during this webcast, you will be hearing this term multiple times. That term is theorem, which means a general proposition, not self-evident, but proved by a chain of reasoning, a truth established by means of accepted truths. Let's have a short activity called It's a Parallelogram. So you will be needing the following materials: a piece of short bond paper, a pencil, ruler, pair of scissors, and a pair of scissors. So the procedures: first, draw and cut any triangle out of the bond paper. Your triangle can be equilateral, right, obtuse, or acute triangle that is not equiangular. And then second, in your triangle, choose a third side. Mark each midpoint of the other two sides, then connect the midpoints to form a segment. Are you done? So based on the activity, answer the following questions. Does the segment drawn look parallel to the third side of the triangle? If your answer is yes, then you made the procedure perfectly. Then you follow the procedure correctly. So measure the segment drawn and the third side you chose. What can you say about the measures of the segments drawn and the third side? Are they equal? Which is longer? So if your answer is that the segment is half as long as the third side, then that is exactly the midline theorem. Because the midline theorem states that the segment that joins the midpoint of two sides of a triangle is parallel to the third side and half as long. So take note of the statement half as long. Since we already defined the midline theorem, let us now prove it. So given triangle HNS, O is the midpoint of segment HN, and E is the midpoint of segment NH. So we need to prove that segment OE is parallel to segment HS, and segment OE is equal to 1/2 the measure of segment HS. So in here, you are provided a table which contains statements at the left side and reasons at the right sides. So the following statements needs to be justified, and you need to provide appropriate reasons. So let's start with statement number 1. Triangle HNS, O is the midpoint of segment HN, and E is the midpoint of segment NS. What could possibly be the reason behind that statement? So obviously, that is just the given I have read earlier. So the reason for that is given. And statement number 2 is already justified. So let's proceed to statement number 3. Segment EN is congruent to segment ES. So look at the diagram. What could be the possible reason behind that statement? So the correct answer is definition of midpoint. Because as you can see, segment EN and segment ES are parts of a single segment, which is segment NS. And then based on our statement number 1, it has been said there that E is the midpoint of NS. Therefore, it cuts the segment into 2 equal parts. Next, statement number 4. Angle 2 is congruent to angle 3. So what can you observe in the figure? And what is the reason behind that statement? That is right. That is because of vertical angles theorem. And we all know that vertical angles are always congruent. Next, statement number 5. Triangle ONE is congruent to triangle TSE. What is the reason behind that statement? Look closely at the figures. So that is because of SAS, or side angle side theorem. Because if you would look at statement number 3 and number 4, we have just identified a pair of congruent side and a pair of congruent angles. So that leaves us with the reason side angle side theorem. Next, statement number 6. Angle 1 is congruent to angle 4. What is the reason? Very good. That is mainly because of CP/CTC, or corresponding parts of congruent triangles are congruent. So based on our statement number 5, we have said that triangle ONE and triangle TSE are congruent. Therefore, if they are congruent, then their corresponding sides are also congruent. That proves that angle 1 and angle 4 are congruent because they are corresponding angles. Next, segment HN is parallel to segment ST. Why? That is because of alternate interior angles theorem. So, based on the statements previously proven, we have identified pairs of alternate interior angles. And if we have alternate interior angles, then that means to say that the two segments are parallel to each other. Next, segment OH is congruent to segment ON. What is the reason? So the same as the reason with statement number 3, that is because of definition of midpoint. Next, statement number 9. Segment ON is congruent to segment TS. Why? That is because of, again, CP-CTC or corresponding parts of congruent triangles are congruent. Because earlier we have stated that triangle ONE and triangle TSE are congruent. And since segment ON and segment TS are the corresponding sides, then that means to say that they are congruent. And next, statement number 10. Segment OH is congruent to segment ST. What is the reason? That is because of transitive property. Why? Because on statement number 8, if you can recall, we have mentioned that segment OH and segment ON are just the same. Now, on statement number 9, we have said that segment ON is congruent to segment TS. And if we will substitute segment ON by segment OH, that is just the same. So we have segment OH is congruent to segment ST by transitive property of equality. Next, quadrilateral HOTS is a parallelogram. What is the reason behind that statement? Perfect. That is because if a quadrilateral has one pair of opposite sides both parallel and congruent, then it is a parallelogram. Because earlier, we have proven a pair of opposite sides that are considered to be parallel and congruent. Next, segment OE is parallel to segment HS. What is the reason? That is because of definition of parallelogram. So from our statement number 11, which says that quadrilateral HOTS is a parallelogram, therefore, segment OE is parallel to segment HS. Opposite sides, remember that opposite sides of a parallelogram are parallel. And for statement number 13, segment OE plus segment ET is equal to segment OT. What is the reason? So obviously it is being assumed from the diagram. Next, for statement number 14, segment OE is segment OE plus segment OE is equal to segment OT. So the reason, okay, I have showed it earlier, so that is because of substitution. Why? Because based from our statement at statement number 13, it is said there that segment OE plus segment ET is equal to segment OT. So if we will just simply substitute segment OE, if we will substitute segment ET by segment OE, that is just the same. Next, statement number 15. Twice the measure of segment OE is equal to segment OT. And the reason for that is, we just simplify the statement or the equation at number 14. So, segment OE plus segment OE is obviously twice the measure of segment OE or 2 segment OE. And for number 16, segment HS is congruent to segment OT. What is the reason? That is mainly because of the definition of parallelogram. Since we have mentioned earlier that HOTS is a parallelogram, then that means that corresponding opposite sides rather of a parallelogram are congruent and parallel. Next, twice the measure of segment OE is equal to segment HS. Why? Very good. That is because of transitive property of equality. So, looking back at your statement 15 and 16, it says there that twice the measure of segment OE is equal to segment OT. And for statement 16, segment HS is congruent to segment OT. So if we will substitute segment OT by twice the segment OE, then we will have statement number 17, which says that twice the measure of segment OE is equal to segment HS. And lastly, statement number 18. Segment OE is equal to 1/2 the measure of segment HS. So the reason behind that is division property of equality. So you just need to divide the equation at statement 17 by 2. So we will be having the equation segment OE is equal to 1/2 segment HS. And that derives our midline theorem, which says that the segment joining the midpoints of two sides of a triangle is half as long as the third side. So let us now apply the midline theorem. In triangle ABC, D and E are the midpoints of segment AB and segment BC respectively. Consider the given information and answer the questions that follow. So for number 1, given segment DE is equal to 5, you need to find the measure of segment AC. So by merely looking at the figure, can you give me the answer? You can type your answers in the comment box. So the measure of segment AC is 10. And how did we arrive at that answer? Here is the solution. So segment AC is equal to twice the segment DE. Why? Because we know that segment DE is half as long as AC. Therefore, we need to multiply it by 2. So we have there segment AC is equal to 2 times the value of DE, which is 5, and that gives us the answer, which is 10. Next, given segment BC is equal to 13, you need to find the measure of segment BE and show us your solution. Again, feel free to answer this question and you can type your answers in the comment box. So by merely looking at the figure again, can you guess or can you give the answer? Can you give us the measure of segment BE? So segment BE is equal to 7. And how did we arrive at that answer? Here is the solution. So segment BE is equal to 1/2 the measure of segment BC. Why? Because E is the midpoint of segment BC. Therefore, it cuts the segment into 2 equal parts. So we need to get 1/2 the measure of the entire segment, or 1/2 the measure of segment BC. And if we divide it by 2 or multiply it by 1/2, we will get the value, which is 7. Did you got it right? Perfect. Next, given segment AD is equal to 5 and segment BE is equal to 9, you need to find the sum of segment AB and segment BC and show us your solution. So look closely at the figure and analyze what could possibly be the formula. Okay, so for this one, the measure of segment AB plus segment BC is 28. Did you get the same answer? Great job! So show us your solution. How did you arrive at that answer? Are your solutions the same as this one? Very good. So for this one, as you can see, the solution is equal to segment AB plus segment BC is equal to twice the measure of segment AD and twice the measure of segment BE. And by substitution, 2 times 5 plus 2 times 9. And that gives us 10 plus 18. So the sum there is 28. So sorry for the technical difficulties. Don't mind the answer below. That should be 28 and not 38. And for number 4, given segment AC is equal to 4x plus 13 and segment DE is equal to 3x plus 3. So you need to find the value of x. So analyze carefully the given figure and the given measures. So the value of x there is 4. Did you got it right? Very good. So for solving x, here is the solution. We know that segment DE is half as long as segment AC. Again, we will multiply it by 2. So we have the formula, segment AC is equal to twice the measure of segment DE. And by substitution, we get 4x plus 13 is equal to 2 times the quantity 3x plus 3. So by simplifying, we get 4x plus 14 is equal to 6x plus 6. And then we get 4x minus 6x is equal to 6 minus 14. And that gives us negative 2x is equal to negative 8. And we need to divide both sides of the equation by negative 2. And the value for x there is 4. So this is now your time to solve the problems independently. You will be given 10 seconds each to answer the following questions. So given segment AI is 10.5, you need to find the measure of segment MC. Your timer starts now. Time's up. What is your answer? So the measure of MC is 21. Very good. So how did you solve for MC? Are your solutions the same as this one? Great job. Next, given segment CG is equal to 32, you need to find the measure of segment GI. Again, you were given 10 seconds to answer this problem. Time's up. What is your answer? Segment GI is equal to 16. And how did you solve for this measure? Are your solutions the same as this one? Very good. And for number 3, given segment AG is equal to 7 and segment CI is equal to 8, you need to find the measure of segment MG plus segment CG. Again, another 10 seconds for this problem. Time's up. What is your answer? So, segment MG plus segment CG is equal to 30. Did you got it right? Very good. So, how did you solve for the sum? Are your solutions the same with this one? Great. And lastly, for number 4, given segment AI is equal to 3x minus 2 and segment MC is equal to 9x minus 15. Now you need to find the value of x. Another 10 seconds for this problem. Okay, time's up. So what is the value of x? So x is equal to 3. And how did you solve for x? Compare your solutions to this one. Are they the same? Very good. So, this time, you need to fill in the following sentences based on what you have learned from this module. So, in the midline theorem, the segment that joins the midpoints of two sides of a triangle is blank. The answer there is, it is parallel to the third side. And blank as long. So what is the answer for blank number 2? That is half. Very good. And lastly, midpoint is a point that divides the segment into two blank parts. What is our answer? That is equal. Midpoint is a point that divides a segment into two equal parts. Did you understand? Great! So, in your own words, explain briefly the following questions. How do you solve problems using midline theorem? And what do you think is the importance of studying the midline theorem? You can share with us your thoughts and ideas by typing it in the comment box. Okay, so in solving problems using the midline theorem, I want you to be reminded of two important things. First one is look carefully at the given figures and the given measurements for you to identify the appropriate formula. And then second one, check. Always check your answers to make sure that your measures are accurate. And then studying midline theorem is very important because it is used in finding specific information regarding the lengths of a triangle. It teaches us the value of measuring things accurately. So in your TVS subject, where and how do you think this midline theorem can be applied? And looking around you, what are the things you see that represent the figures that we have just solved using the midline theorem? So in your TVS subject, you can use the midline theorem in roof trusses. One example is also in those who are having a specialization in animal production. Chicken cages, or the cages used for chickens, have the same figure that we have used in the midline theorem. Aside from that, looking around you, there are a lot of objects that could represent the midline theorem. For example, triangular shelf and plant holders. So as you can see, they are similar to the figures we have just solved earlier. So for the assessment, I will be asking you a few questions and you need to give me your answers right away. So read carefully each item. Write only the letter of your best answer on a separate sheet. Or you can simply type your answers in the comment box. Number 1. Midline theorem states that the segment that joins the midpoints of two sides of a triangle is parallel to the third side and blank as long. Choices: A, half, B, thrice, C, twice, and D, 4 times. What is the correct answer? The correct answer there is letter A, half. Did you get it right? Very good. Next. I'm sorry. In triangle GHI, P and Q are the midpoints of segment GH and HI respectively. If GI is 10 centimeters long, how long is segment PQ? So for the choices, A, 4 centimeters, B, 5 centimeters, C, 6 centimeters, and D, 7 centimeters. So try solving it on your paper. Again, you can type your answers in the comment box. So what is our answer for number 2? The correct answer there is letter B, 5 centimeters. And for number 3, in triangle GHI, P and Q are the midpoints of segment GH and segment HI respectively. If segment HI is 28 inches long, how long is segment HQ? So what is your answer? The correct answer there is letter A, 14 inches. Next, for items 4 and 5, consider the figure and information below. So in triangle DEF, L is the midpoint of segment DE and M is the midpoint of segment EF. Segment LE is equal to 7 inches. Segment DF is equal to 24 inches. And segment MF is equal to 6 inches. And lastly, segment EM is equal to X minus 2. You can write the following given and copy the figure so that you will not be confused. So, for question number 4, if L is the midpoint of segment DE and M is the midpoint of segment EF, which of the following answers why segment EM is equal or congruent rather to segment MF? So look closely at the given figure. So the correct answer there is letter D, definition of midpoint. And lastly, for number 5, which of the following reasons answers why segment LM is equal to 1/2 the measure of segment DF? Choices: A, midpoint, B, midline theorem, C, ray, and D, midline theorem. The correct answer is letter D, midline theorem. How many correct answers did you get? Good job! So for your assignment, you can copy the link provided below to access your assignment, or you can simply scan the QR code provided. So that ends our lesson for today. I hope you have learned a lot from this discussion. Again, this is Miss Karen Del Guzman saying, thank you so much for watching at isang matsayang araw sa ating lahat.
Good day, Philippines. Hello, Region 1. Aloha sa Carolinian learners. Airing live from the mango bamboo capital of the Philippines, San Carlos City. You're tuning in to CCN Broadcast Center, a virtual home of every SDO-SEC learner, where passion is the key. Learning paves the way. With our division mantra, developing creativity, maximizing versatility. This is your CCN Broadcast Center. CCN Broadcast Center, a virtual home of every SDO-SEC learner.